I have a feeling this is going to be the last time we're talking about this guy, because I don't think I've ever seen anybody so quickly, so thoroughly humiliated in so many venues by so many different people. There is really, I mean, it's
like doing a Sam Nunberg.
It's more than that. It's more than that, because there's no pity. And there's not even the same like sort of joie de vivre in this. This just feels like everybody's doing their job, right? Everybody, and that job, of course, is to make Howard Schultz, the billionaire owner of a series of cafes, coffee shops, or formerly, that he doesn't get to be king just because he's so rich. He can go around and be unofficial king, as a lot of these billionaires are doing, but he doesn't get to be named king. Sorry. And here he is with Andrew Ross Sorkin. Is that who it is? Does Andrew Ross Sorkin, does he live in one of like Howard Schultz's like suit coat pockets? Does he just hang out there?
He's a billionaire whisperer.
Yeah. Yeah. He just sort of pals around with him. And here he is interviewing him at Barnes & Noble. This is in New York City, correct? And CNN was did they cover this live, or is this they videotaped it? Like they do all events at Barnes & Noble. And for people who nobody knew who this guy was 3 weeks ago. And talk about, if this was his plan to sell books, I got some bad news for you, buddy. Here we go.
I am seriously considering running for president as a centrist independent. And I wanted to clarify the word independent, which I view merely as a designation on the ballot.
Don't help elect Trump, you egotistical billionaire.
I love Aaron Ross Sorkin's look on his face when he's just like, really upset. Now, so there was that heckler. That was highly inappropriate. And so he came back, another one came back for a more appropriate one. Same guy.
Don't help elect Trump, you egotistical billionaire. Go back to getting ratioed on Twitter. Go back to Davos with the other billionaire elite who think they know how to run the world. That's not what democracy needs.
We're going to get to that idea and that sentiment in just a minute.
There you go. That was awesome.
They're going to keep trying to do this, though.
Well, what do you mean? They're going to keep trying to do what? Who is they?
Egotistical billionaire centrists who represent that point of view.
The most amazing thing about this was yesterday when Michael Bloomberg basically said, like, hey, I swallowed enough of my pride to not do this. Like my therapy worked for a long time for me to just get to the place where I wasn't just so narcissistic that I thought I could do this. I am richer than you, and if anybody should have done it, it should have been me, and you cannot do it.
Yeah, if there's one thing billionaires hate, it's other billionaires taking liberties that they themselves didn't take.
Right, and he's like, I was big enough, man. Like, if there's any billionaire who deserved to be king, it would have been me. And since I was big enough to not take it, it is absurd that you would even think about taking it. In fact, it's a personal offense to me. That's what Bloomberg is saying. That's so awesome. But this guy is, this is where was he? Let's just listen to this a little bit. He was on NPR Morning Edition, right? This guy's like, put aside for a moment that he's that the whole concept is obnoxious and offensive. Put aside the incredible narcissism, the sense of propriety, the sort of like the complete obliviousness. This guy's also really bad at this, and seems to have just like. I'll tell you what this is an example of. This is an example of a guy who has had no one question anything out of his mouth for years. Nothing. He's showing up on all these shows with like not even 1/4 baked ideas about what he's doing. This is a guy who has been so encased in amber in terms of like criticism or even the questioning.
Well, he's used to getting ratioed on Twitter.
I mean, but you don't think he looks at that, do you? You don't think he looks at the replies. He has somebody who brings him a form that says, you got this many replies. Oh, great. He doesn't know what ratio means.
I don't know. I think he's mad that people are allowed to tweet at him.
He probably doesn't. He's probably just so far removed. And it's stunning because he's completely unprepared for this. And he's getting softball questions virtually from everywhere.
Shareholder value had to be balanced and equaled with creating value for our customers and, most importantly, for our people.
Would you be changing, as president, laws or pushing to change SEC regulations, anything else to change the business environment in which shareholder value has become utterly paramount for companies across this country?
I don't think I would be changing laws, but what I would try and do is influence public CEOs to understand that we have a moral obligation and responsibility not only to make a profit and create shareholder value, but also to do everything we can to do more for our employees and the communities we serve.
Pause it. No, why would you need to be president to do that? Right? He's like, I'm not going to use any part of government to in any way infringe or mitigate the horridness of shareholder value concept of the way that companies should be measured. I'm just going to do it from the bully pulpit. But here's a guy with billions of dollars. He could spend $300 million and he'd be on so many ads across the country saying this that we would know every contour of his face. We'd be able to count how many hairs are on his head with the amount of money that he would spend in the same way that I would contemplate, like, we're going to go out for a good company dinner. But he needs to be president to do this, apparently. But no laws.
Serve.
Can you preach your way to that change on a large scale in a system where a CEO who doesn't maximize shareholder value can get sued or lose the company?
Financial performance, in a way, is the price of admission. A company has to perform. But you don't have to perform at the expense of your people.
What Schultz has not made clear, at this early stage at least, is how, if at all, he would change the economic or political systems under which he grew rich. It is not clear how he would reduce the national debt, although he says it is far too high. He says Republicans fail to take it seriously, and he accuses Democrats of making promises that could enlarge it.
Free Medicare for all, government-paid free college for all. First of all, there's no free. I mean, nothing is free.
President Obama's theory was that you reduce the deficit in small measure by raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans. President Trump's theory was that you reduce the deficit by cutting taxes on the wealthiest Americans. You're smiling. Which, if either of those is true?
Look, can I say it in my own words?
Please.
So we are in dire need of comprehensive tax reform, which would include a significant level of infrastructure development.
Is it safe to say that the wealthiest would have to pay more, whatever the rates become, however the reform is structured?
What I would say is that we need comprehensive tax reform.
Oh my
Why
God!
do you stick with that particular
because
phrase?
I think there are a number of areas here that need to be addressed, and I'm not trying to dodge any question. I feel like, what we have today is an unfair system. However, when I see Elizabeth Warren
pause it for a second.
come out with...
Yeah, I got news for you. He is trying to dodge a question. When you say I'm not trying to dodge a question and everybody thinks you're dodging a question, guess what? You're dodging the question. Either taxes are going to go up on the wealthy or they're going to go down. If you just change, they pay $30 worth of taxes on $100, but what we're going to do is we're going to splice that up. And what they're going to end up doing is paying $15 of taxes on $50. And that's the way that that's the comprehensive reform that we're talking about. Well, I mean, do they end up paying more or less? going to avoid that question in my own language. But let me take the opportunity to criticize Elizabeth Warren.
However, when I see Elizabeth Warren come out with, a ridiculous plan of taxing wealthy people, a surtax of 2% because it makes a good headline, or sends out a tweet when she knows in a fact that's not something that's ever going to be passed. This is what's wrong. I mean, you can't just attack these things in a punitive way by punishing people.
But I'm just thinking, you've got trillion-dollar annual deficits now in good times. Getting that down calls for some specific painful-sounding things. Drastic cut in military spending at a time when the United States is confronting China and Russia and who knows who else. Changes to Medicare and Social Security. Tax increases on somebody. Are you going to do that?
Well, you haven't talked about growth. So,
you think you can grow your way out of $1 trillion?
I don't think you can. No, I don't. No, I don't think you can grow your way out of $1 trillion. But I remember I've been an entrepreneur for the last 40 years. I view things a little bit differently than certainly a traditional politician, and I have a 30-year plus record of being able to solve complex problems in unique ways.
Though he is vague about what he would do if elected, Howard Schultz is insistent that he can be an alternative in the presidential campaign.
I can't think of anything that is a more quintessential expression of our democracy than providing the American people with a choice
for president
that doesn't have to be binary between a Republican and a Democrat.
He says the next president must be the right person, and he will decide within months if he thinks that person should be him.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Why does this guy even get to be interviewed on NPR? What the hell?
That's what I was saying about he was on 60 Minutes yesterday, too.
How long did it take for them to give Bernie a serious interview last time around?
It is stunning. He just bought his way onto these places and is talking about democracy demands that that some wealthy guy run as an independent. It's shocking. It's shocking, the level of delusion. And some people speculated that this was basically a shot across the bow threatening, if you nominate Elizabeth Warren, if you nominate Bernie Sanders, this is what's going to happen. But Mike Bloomberg came out and said, no, you will not.
I think to update the Libertarian Challenge, we should do a billionaire debate challenge, too. Like, people like Howard Schultz want to call in and debate us.
Yes, I will do right now. This is a message I'm sending out to Howard Schultz. Debate me. I insist. You come on this program. You can call in. And if you want, you can fly in. You can fly in and I'll let you sit in this seat. I'll sit over there and you can sit here.
It builds so much character for him, I think. Being surrounded by yes men all the time.
I think democracy calls for it. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back.